are talking about how to prevent gangs in our communities. I think this is a really interesting topic, randomly. I hope you do too. I'm going to be talking about what I thought would prevent gangs, what the internet thought would prevent gangs, and then also what is actually being done right now in our society about gangs. Anyways, thanks for listening. Kind of an out-of-the-box topic today, but that's what we like. Random topics. That's what I like. Random topics that maybe can help, maybe not. Maybe just talking about it in general. Anyways, today, obviously by the title, I am talking about how to prevent gangs. And is that a possibility? What are some ways that we can help our kids to not get into gangs? How we can help in the community to prevent gangs. How, we raise our kids can prevent other kids from getting in gangs. Your kids being friends with other kids. These type of things. Anyways, okay, let's just get right into it. So, how to prevent gangs. The first thing that came, these are like some things that I thought of. Then I wanted to talk about what the internet said. And then I'm going to talk about what's actually being done that people do. What people actually do to prevent gangs in schools and just in general. Okay, so yeah, my first thing that I thought of, and my whole background of everything that I'm talking about is going to be based in Christ, obviously, because it's an identity situation, why anyone would get in a gang anyways. I mean, they want to belong, right? So they want to be a part of something. Maybe it's a bad home life and they don't feel a part of something. Maybe their parents or dads aren't there. They want to be a part of something where they're accepted, and a gang will just accept anyone, right? Or maybe not. Maybe they have to go through an initiation or whatever and have to get in, but someone like that's not feeling a part of something will do anything to be a part. And I think I've seen that. I even saw that in myself in high school at times, where it's like, or I saw other people where it's like you'll do anything just to be a part of the group, Luckily, I didn't have to do a lot of crazy stuff to be a part of things. I kind of found myself a part of everything I wanted to be, so I didn't have to try too hard, luckily, and definitely not a part of gangs, thank the Lord. But there's a time in my life, and I've seen in lots of other people's lives, where they just will do anything to be a part of a specific group or whatever. And it's not always healthy. It's not always good. And especially when it comes to gangs, it's deadly. Can cost your life or people in your family's lives. You're, running, you're going to run into lots of issues. So it's just going to make life harder. If it's already hard, it's going to be worse being a part of a gang. So anyways, how can we prevent gangs? First, my first thing should have been Jesus. I'm just going to say it is. It wasn't the first thing I thought of, unfortunately, but bringing Jesus to these communities. I have been a part of some different communities where they are bringing Jesus to, maybe a lower income area, or an area that's more run down, or an area that gangs really reside in. So teaching the kids in these communities, just sharing Jesus with them, sharing the gospel, being there once a week or more to play games, just be a part of this community, sharing the gospel, having the kids hear who Jesus is, what he did for them, an opportunity to really give their life to Christ, and then a discipleship program where they're being discipled, where they're learning how to spend time with the Lord in their personal relationship, getting a part of a bigger community, maybe a church. Maybe this thing on the week, once a week, is a social time, but also there's maybe worship, maybe there's a little sermon, and then maybe there's some like community where they share food, maybe there's a time of outreach where these kids are going out and preaching the gospel to their friends, like friends influencing friends, where maybe the little kids were thinking about getting in a gang because maybe their older brother's in a gang, but then now they share the gospel and now they hear the word and it's like, no, man, like, I don't want that. I have something better. And now they're a part of a community and multiple communities, a church community, and then this community in the park or wherever you meet or whatever, and maybe they get a part of other communities and then they're sharing the gospel and they have good news, I mean, that would be the first thing that should be on people's priority to prevent gangs, because that alone, people are being a part of something and it's taking the place of what would be potentially a gang, because maybe the kids' families don't have the money to be in sports or do an activity, or maybe the parents aren't around, so then they're just whatever is available. And maybe you're in the park and maybe you are doing this thing. It's like, yes. And then their friends are preaching the gospel and seeing people get healed and set free, and chains breaking off in their family, and generational curses and generational deals just coming off in these communities is an incredible thing, and exactly what this community would need. And yeah, it would be hard. You'd be in day in and day out, but don't grow weary in doing good, and you're doing, long suffering deal, It's long suffering. You look like Jesus when you do that, Anyway. I had to yawn, of course. Of course, I'm making this really late. Okay, so the next thing on my list is going to be dads, ? Where's the dad? Where's the mom? I think the biggest thing in little boys' lives and girls' lives, both, is the mom is very important. Don't get me wrong. Like, the mom is so important. The mom is everything, but like, the dad is also everything. You know what I mean? Just as much as the mom is everything, the dad is literally also everything. And so you need the dad. You need the dad around. You need dad in the household. You need dad not just letting the mom raise the kids or daycare or whoever raising the kids. You need dad in the home, being with the kids, eating at the dinner table, praying, teaching them how to follow Jesus, not just leaving it up to mom, but like, dad needs to be in their lives and a big part of their lives, teaching them to play catch, teaching them whatever it is, to fish, whatever the kids want, teaching them, what a lady should be taught, how she should be treated, going out on dates with dad, as a girl, whatever it is, but they should be the one. The girl should know what it's like to be treated by a man, and the dad should be the one to do it and to teach. And so that this example is the first example that she has ever known in a dad or in a man, and that's her example, and that's her standard, and that's what she keeps, and dad being in her life and his life at the dinner table, and going to their events, and teaching them who Jesus is and their identity and who they are in Christ, and telling them stories, and teaching them how to spend time with the Lord, teaching them what that looks like in the morning or whatever, and spending time teaching them and doing it with them. Spend time with them spending time with Jesus and show them what that looks like. Go through that and then take them out and teach them how to preach the gospel. Teach them how to, teach them about the Lord. Sit down with them and read the word together, I'm just, the dad is so crucial in both men and girls and boys' lives. I think there's just studies that have been shown that when the dad is present, not just the mom's always present, but like if the dad is present as well, there's a lot less likely that the kids, boys and girls, are going to be in gangs, number one, but also they'll have, just a better self-esteem. They, if you're the one teaching them the gospel and their identity in Christ, well, now they know their identity in Christ. You taught them, not just the church. You're not leaving it in the church's hands to potentially fail, but no, you are teaching them who they are and that they've been chosen by God, that there could have been 5 million options when they were born with the different sperm. There's like 5 million sperm or 500 million. But they were the ones that were formed in their mother's womb. There's so many options. So many people could have been born, but it was just them. They were chosen. The options of that, and it goes deeper than that. The Lord chose them for that time to be born. And so, anyway, dads are so high on the list. So high on the list. Jesus is number one because dads can't always be there. Dads are usually the one providing. So they do need to go to work and provide. That is their role in a lot of ways. Not necessarily saying that men only can provide and women can't, but that's not always the case, and so women can be the breadwinner too, but dads will be most likely providing or out in that sort of way, and so it's very, very crucial that dads are a part of their lives in whatever that looks like for the dad and for the kid, but mom can't just be the one raising the kids. I know there are some cultures where men do not raise kids, only women do that. And I understand that a little bit, but I just don't think that that's necessarily... I know that that's a culture for some people, but I personally do not agree with that. I really, really think that the men need to help raise, not necessarily like in the day in and out, because in our personal situation, which isn't right for everybody, we have chosen that the mom would be the one taking care of the kids day in and day out, and dad is, when he's home, helping take care of the kids, but mostly dad is working and providing for the family, and so that just works for us, and that's not necessarily the right way. Everybody has their own way of doing things, but dad needs to help raise and teach and nurture and counsel and pray and just pray with and all these things as much as mom too, And maybe it's not as much when I say as much. They need to be intentional. They can't just I just don't agree with letting the TV raise your kids and the internet. You need to be the one to teach them first. I heard a pastor once tell me, if you teach your kids first, if you're the first one to tell them about sex, you're the first one to tell them about what a period is, if you're the first one how to use a tampon, how to, whatever it is, XYZ, when it's a little bit more intense subjects, if you're the first one to tell them, they'll believe you before they'll believe their friends. They'll be the one telling their friends, the way that God intended sex to be, or when their friends try to tell them, they'll be like, no, actually, this is how it is, because you taught them already, and friends try to tell them, but it's like, no, I heard this from my mom and dad know more than what you're saying, and you don't know what's right. And so it's important that you be the first one to tell your kids. Don't wait too long to tell them, but you got to hear the Lord on when to tell your kids intense subjects, you know. So that's just you got to hear the Lord for yourself and know when, because kids are learning about these things very, very young now. And I was in 4th grade, and when I in a private school, private Catholic school, when I first heard about what sex is, and that was like, I don't know, like 20 some years ago. So I mean, today is worse. You know, they're learning about it younger than 8. I think I'm 8 in 4th grade, so you're learning way younger than 8, maybe 5. You're learning what sex is. So I don't know, but they're learning way sooner. Anyways, okay. Next. I wrote something questionable. I think what I meant to say was I wrote young boys question mark, but I think what I was trying to say was getting to young boys, like as like teaching young boys when they're very young who they are and that they're chosen, and to be confident, and you know, maybe teach them about the gospel. Maybe, you know, you're getting to young boys first before the gangs do, before the gangs or the streets have the opportunity to, but you are teaching the kids. And when I'm saying you, I just mean like the community, which really it's the church's job, I believe, as Christians, to like the reason, I really think honestly that the reason our world is all in shambles is because because of the church. The church knows better, and the church is accepting all of these weird principles and letting, you know, the transgender situation happen and all these different things. Like, anyways, there's lots of stuff in there that really should not be, and the church is allowing it. And so we're not standing up for certain things that God is very clear about He does not agree with. And so I really think there's a lot to do with the church in that. So in this case, maybe the church is reaching young boys in these communities sooner than the gangs do. So sports, getting them involved in sports or events. Maybe it's debate, maybe it's speech, maybe it's show choir, maybe it's band, maybe it's robotics or something. I don't know. Maybe it's theater. Maybe it is a sport. Maybe, you know, it's martial arts. I don't know. Maybe they want to get into fighting. You know, maybe they have something, or they're upset about their family life, but they get into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and that's how they get their anger out, or karate, or MMA, or boxing, something like that. What might be really good, where they're learning how to defend themselves if it's an abusive home, or they're learning how to, I don't know, maybe it doesn't just defend themselves. Maybe it's just learning how to deal with that things that are going on in their lives, and maybe that's a way to get some frustration and anger out isned of hurting people, killing people, doing damage, and stealing, and vandalizing things. I don't know why that word is so hard for me right now, but anyways, yeah, but getting in events, essentially. The next one I wrote is activities after school. That's basically what sports are. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they're learning an instrument or something. Just band, I guess, but a cool instrument like guitar or piano or something. I don't know. Maybe they're doing just any after school activity instead of when they would be on their bikes looking and getting into bad communities and areas where gangs reside. You know, or just wandering around bored, or maybe they're by themselves, maybe they're in a little group. Anyways, just getting them doing stuff, being a part of something that's more than what they're doing before. Okay, so the next thing I wrote was maybe helping moms and dads have good jobs in that area. And maybe that's like a job board, or if the church had something. I always revert back to the church because I really think it's the church's project. I know the church isn't always the one that does it, that there are random communities that just want to do good, and try to help in these areas. I think I wrote also down below a little bit more the Boys and Girls Club. I think there's something like that. I think that's kind of similar to help kids. But anyways, the moms and dads helping them get jobs. Like if there's, sorry, I keep yawning. Just like a way for parents to have good jobs where they're able to make more money or qualify, or temp jobs that get them into a better job. That would be a really big thing, where they're able to make a little bit more money, where they're able to provide a little bit more, where they're able to just take pride in what they're doing. And I think it adds a little something when you are proud of the job that you're working for and you're making a good income, and you just take more pride in it and you appreciate it, and you want to keep it and do well. So maybe if there was a job board or something that kind of helped in this area get better jobs that people were proud of and happy, and providing for their families in good ways, That's a healthy way, not like drug dealing or prostitution or anything weird. Obviously, it wouldn't be those, but I mean, trying to get away from that kind of deal, or stealing or whatever, but having really good jobs that they're proud of, Being a strong community. I think in general, when you have like watch parties, growing up, we would always have this watch party. It was like twice a year, in the fall and then in the spring, I think. Towards the end of the beginning of the years, we would have a watch party in our community, our block, both sides of the block. We lived in the cities in Minnesota, and we would get together and we would bring all this crazy, yummy, good food. And I remember I was young, and we would all like get food, and there's lots of snacks, and then all the neighbor kids were there, so we'd all sit together, and there's tons of neighbor kids. It would be like this huge big group, and we'd all just be watching. And then there was this one designated house that we called the Spy Lady. We called her the Spy Lady because you'd walk by and she'd always, like, somehow she would know, like maybe back then she had a camera or something when cameras weren't like so popular or like really expensive, because she would poke her head out and look through the blinds every time we would walk by. It was crazy. We would like test it, walk by and then walk by and then walk by to see if she would poke her head out. It was like clockwork. She would poke her head out, her little eye, her little beady eye between the blinds or whatever. It was so funny. Well, we called her the Spy Lady. But anyway, she held the watch parties. And so we would all get together, and then she would host it, or her husband, or both, or I don't know. I don't think I ever remember seeing her husband, but maybe he was there too. But they would host it, and then they would talk about what's going on in the community, what is in the news, and what to look out for. If there were like hooded men, or like certain cars that were like this one car that was seen taking kids, or something like that. Or this was like back when I was like 5 and 6 and 7 years old, and I'm like 30s right now, like mid 30s right now. So it's like a long time ago, before like there were that many like Amber Alerts, crazy. Anyway, so having something like that, or where all your neighbors, and like take the time to get to know your neighbors, take the time to get to know their lives and what's going on. And if you have a strong community where you can start to trust your neighbors, or you at least know them and you know what's going on in your community, you help each other, you borrow things. Like, we have a community here where I live, and people will just give you whatever. Like, if you need a cup of sugar, a cup of milk, it's like we know where everybody lives, we know what's going on, we know, or just kind of like there for each other. Like, if you can have that, I think that would really prevent weird things going on or people straying away. But you have a really strong community, and like, if you're not home and your kid needs help, they know that they can go to Mrs. Wilson's house or Mr. and Mrs. Wilson's, because the mom and dad know them, and mom and dad said if you need help, you can go to their house for help. If we're not home or whatever, you can run there. If our house is too far, you can run to their house. My parents had this kind of thing too, where we knew there were different safe houses in our neighborhood that we could go to. Anyway. Okay, I kind of already mentioned the Boys and Girls Club, getting kids involved in this. I think this is another way. They do lots of different activities. I don't know exactly all that they do, but I know that they do. There are somewhat of a community, like big brothers, big sisters type of thing, something like that. Being a mentor, like, you could personally be a mentor in one of these kids' lives that are kind of like waffling, to maybe be in a gang or not. And it's like, yeah, it's a commitment, and it's kind of like discipling, but like, just to be a good citizen. Maybe you get to teach them about your relationship with Christ. Just if you're doing a mentorship, it's almost like a literal actual discipleship. And maybe it turns into a discipleship, from a mentorship to a discipleship. They're kind of hand in hand, but a mentorship isn't necessarily a discipleship. A discipleship is definitely a mentorship. So kind of like some theology right there, but like kind of interesting. But I think that would, just having somebody in their lives that is steady, that they can look up to. Maybe their parents aren't steady, but you are steady in their life, and that makes all the difference. I'm telling you what. I was a youth leader at a church, and these girls had a bunch of us that were very steady in their lives. We could meet with them for coffee. We would go to their events where their parents wouldn't go, but there's this one girl, I went to all her art events, where her art shows, and her parents wouldn't go, but like, I was there. And because I was like a mentor in her church group, in our youth whatever, she, like, that was everything to her. That somebody that loved her and that was for her showed up to her events. And it was so important. And that's the kind of thing I think that can keep people out of trouble, like knowing that you have somebody has your back, so. Okay, so that was pretty much all that I wrote. Let's see. Okay, the next thing I'm going to be talking about is what keeps kids out of gangs. This is like what the internet said. Instill positive life skills. I mean, that's good. Instilling positive life skills, having a positive outlook, being able to save money, do chores, be respectful, be courteous, these kinds of things. So that's good. Instilling positive life skills, knowing how to, brush your teeth, and having discipline, and doing your homework and getting it turned in on time. There's lots of things that they can learn that is in that category. So that's really awesome. Youth that know how to handle peer pressure. That's a good one I didn't think of, kind of. I think it kind of goes in with like dad helping raise, and mom and dad raising in a positive way and teaching them about Jesus. But also handling peer pressure is great. Not giving in to what other kids say just because they, that you want to fit in, but like, no, what is the right thing? What's going to be good for you? And then, as when they're just teaching them how important it is, and what the cause can happen, and what can happen if you do give in to certain peer pressure, smoking or drinking or, you know, sex before marriage, whatever it is. How to resolve conflict. Oh, that's so awesome. Instead of getting into a gang, you're like resolving conflict. These are really good, actually, so far. Sorry again with the yawn. How to resolve conflict. You don't have to, like, how to try to fight for connection instead of just having to be right. This is a really good situation, or like good problem solving, like, yeah, resolve conflict. How to, defuse the other person. How to, not needing to be right, but just, come to an understanding, come to a medium, come to an understanding where you can fix it. You both compromise, or maybe you compromise to just not fight, but to not have conflict, but to get along. Okay, it says, and solve problems are less likely to become gang members. I think they meant like problem solvers are less likely to be gang members. That's so crazy. It's a good, crazy thing. Oh, I'm coming to the end of my rope here. It's getting late. Teach them about being bullied, and not to bully. I think that's a huge thing. Definitely, I think a bully is often weaker than the person that they're trying to bully, because they feel insecure. They feel there's something maybe going wrong at home. There's something going on in their heart that isn't being met, and maybe they just need Jesus to turn that around, become victims. Teaching them about becoming a victim, or not maybe having a victim mentality. I'm not sure what they're saying there, but maybe you understand. You can learn more about how blah blah blah. Okay, anyways, that's basically what they said. What is being done? So suppression is the first thing. I haven't read through these all, so I'm not sure what they're saying, but suppressing the desire to be in a gang, suppress the people. So I don't think suppression ever works, because it's not changing the heart posture. You're just making them more mad, and maybe they'll go to it more, because again, you aren't solving the issue, you're just pressing it down and potentially making it worse. Formal and informal social control procedures. Again, controlling, suppression, trying to control kids only makes it worse. It only festers. It just makes things worse. Makes them more mad. Makes them act out more. So, not sure. I'm so sorry. Is a good thing. Although I've never tried these things. I just don't think that would be good. Including close supervision or monitoring of gang youth by agencies of the criminal justice system. Yeah, you can monitor them, but it doesn't get to the root issue. All of these things so far do not get to the root issue to prevent it. These are only reactionary responses that are only, I think, don't necessarily put out the fire, but just suppress it enough to make it go wild right after you lift the lid, Okay, so monitoring of youth gangs by agencies in criminal justice system, and also by community-based agencies, schools, and grassroots groups. I don't know. I guess I don't think that those are preventative things or even helping the situation at hand. I think these kind of things are kind of domineering, kind of communist control. It doesn't get to the heart issue. You are just trying to stuff it. And stuffing, I don't think, really works with anything. So, anyways. Again, I'm just not sure that these things will help. I think it just makes things worse, and it doesn't change the heart issue. It really there needs to be something that is being done to help them desire not to be in a gang, to desire a better life, to have the motivation and the care and the oomph to want and desire a better life. And that it doesn't help being in a gang. Yeah, you're a part of something, but at your own risk, your own death potentially, and your family's death, and then potential jail, life in jail, murder, whatever. It's not going to be a happy ending, when you join a gang. So, all that to say, Jesus and dads are my top 2. Let me go back to my list. Definitely Jesus, number 1. Dads. And then after school activities, strong community, a mentor. I mean, I guess a lot of the things I said, I think really help. A lot of the things that the internet said, what keeps kids out of gangs, was really good too, honestly. Like, they said how to handle peer pressure, resolve conflict, solve problems. I'm teaching them about being bullied or becoming victims. Those things are really good things that a mentor, or you could teach them at Boys and Girls Club or in the community, Jesus community, or dads could teach them, or parents. Yeah, those are really good things to teach kids to prevent being in a gang. So, anyways, that's all I have for you, I think, this week. So, thanks for listening, and we'll talk next time. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. It was my pleasure. Please subscribe and leave a review. It means so much. And share this with a friend. Thanks for listening. Love you. Bye-bye.